Welcome back to the post-Season 1 Kingscreek Q&A. I'm Thomas Dennis. My co-host is Kai After Kai, aka James Makepeace. And without further ado, let's just jump right back into where we left off. James, what was your first impression of the project when you heard the pitch, and how much of an impact did you have on the early and how much did you have on an impact on
And how much of an impact did I have on the early conception of it?
Yeah, that.
Yeah. Those two questions kind of lead into each other. So as I mentioned earlier, Thomas brought the idea to me late October. By that point, it really, was very much just like a very draft kind of pitch. I don't think Damien even had a name at that point.
No,
it was just, hey, this guy, it's the idea about this guy who graduates from university, moves into his uncle's old study, and starts reading all his funky files and stuff. You compared it to stuff like Lovecraft and I think Trevor Henderson as well. You kind of threw that out as well.
Yeah.
As like a bit of thing. But that was kind of the initial thing. And I thought, okay, cool, definitely an interesting thing.
Another influence I didn't mention, Lovecraft is a huge one for me.
Yeah, and Lovecraftian horror and cosmic and existential horror in general is an influence for me, evidenced by the fact that I made an album called The Universe is a God-Shaped Hole.
Yeah.
So, I felt it was definitely something that fit in with my artistic sensibilities. I said I was interested. A couple weeks later or so, you sent the draft for the pilot episode, which became the first episode, Roadkill, and that was cool. Initially I was just brought on to do the music, but as you were developing the show more and more, you started sending drafts and ideas, running them by me more and more often, and I would also sit in as you were brainstorming as well, and help bounce ideas off of you, start suggesting ideas of my own as well.
Yeah.
And eventually you just went, you're basically co-writing it at this point. Do you want the producer credit as well? And I was like, yeah, sure. We'll do that. And that's how I ended up getting my sticky fingers on it.
Yeah. And now for season 2, you're actually going to be writing some episodes. I'm very excited about it. Yeah,
not just planning stuff, but actually, writing out specific episodes. Just it's really fun to do. In terms of an impact I had on the early conception of it. I don't want to claim that it's all mine. Obviously, that I came in and organized it all. But I do believe that this probably would have been a very different show if I hadn't been involved.
I can 100% confirm it would have been. For one thing, it would have Sherlock Holmes as the main character.
Yeah, it would.
But I think that your specific influences and your interest in specifically a lot of more musical influenced terms of media, more there's you have a very specific aesthetic that comes through in your music, in your video making, in your whole branding, I guess, that really influenced how I thought about these things. And you would suggest ideas that I hadn't thought of that really changed up how things went. I think that honestly, without your influence, I'm not sure if it would have made Damien as much of an interesting character, because I wasn't really thinking about Damien that much when I was first initially pitching it. It was just he was just the narrator guy. But I started having some ideas about his relationship with his uncle and everything, and I talked to you about it a lot, and I felt you kind of helped me discover the characters in a way that I wasn't really expecting to. And so
I think it was in his while we were talking about specifically Damien's relationship with Marcus and planning out the specific kind of relationship the two of them had and the kind of history that the two had as uncle and nephew. I think that definitely allowed us to find both of them in their relationships with each other.
Yeah, and I think the show is much better for it. So I think you had a huge impact, and you will continue to have a huge impact, and that's why I don't really think of myself as the creator of the show. I think of like it as something we made together. So
Yeah, very sweet. Thank you.
even though I wrote all of season 1 all by myself, I
All by yourself,
I had no help at all. No one was there.
Oh yeah.
No one.
Remind me, where's Sherlock Holmes in season 1?
He's in the background. You'll see him around there somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, very happy to have you on board, man.
Happy to be here.
All right, let's get a question for me next. All the last few questions have all been for James.
Oh, shaved by the skin of your teeth.
That was very close.
Was anything from season 1 cut and moved to later seasons?
I would say yeah. Because what I'm thinking of specifically is that a lot of stuff that is in season 1 is setting up for things that are going to happen in later seasons, but like there was a character who was going to show up in season 1 originally and is now showing up in season 2. And this is someone who showed up in like planning fairly early on. And like you and I have been talking about this character for a long time, and I think right now we're in the process of writing out who this character is more. It feels kind of weird because like when I think of the show and I think of the dynamic of the main characters, I think of this character a lot, even though technically they haven't
even been introduced yet. No one outside of us even really knows who they are.
Yeah, there's like a passing mention, I think, of this character, like a couple times.
Maybe a couple times. Yeah.
And then there's another character who's also got a huge impact on the show, who has like technically shown up, I think, but
depending on your definition of show up.
Yeah, but like they're also like a huge part of the mythology, I guess. So I guess what that means is that season 1, very proud of season 1, but I'm thinking season 2 will probably be the platonic ideal of what I think of as a Kingscreek season, if that makes sense. Yeah, which is weird to say because, like, I mean, season 1 is all out and it seems like it has its own status quo. But yeah, I guess it kind of just shows how ahead of all you guys we are. We're like way so ahead.
Which I mean, ultimately is a good thing.
Yeah, we're like a million years ahead.
You wouldn't want the writers to go, oh yeah, this character, yeah. I guess we'll do something with them. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking forward to finding out.
This is not the same thing, but I'm reminded of like an interview I listened to with Jonathan Sims, where he said that sometimes he checks the fandom wiki for the Magnus archives to keep track of things.
Well, I mean, imagine what was there? There would ended up being 180 episodes or something.
It's like 200, yeah.
You gotta have you gotta lose track a little bit at some point.
Yeah, which we will not be doing 200 episodes. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, no, we've got a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah, but there's also just like a lot of story ideas that I wanted to do with like specific short story ideas that I wanted to do with season 1 that I just didn't have the room for, so that I'll probably do in like seasons 2 and 3.
Oh yeah.
So that's that question. Right. Question about the music. Is it intended to be part of Damien's in-universe podcast editing, or is it non-diegetic, or is it some of both?
I think I can go ahead and say no. I don't think Damien is particularly. He doesn't doll up the presentation too much.
No.
of his podcast. I think we've established that he generally just records it and then uploads it as soon as he's done. Really, he doesn't give too much thought for post processing and that kind of stuff. I will say I have, even though officially. Obviously, no, none of the music is actually there. It's non-diegetic. I will say the idea of it possibly not being so has kind of influenced me a little bit. Specifically, I'm thinking of the Misty Pond episodes where Damien is going out there and he's interviewing a bunch of random locals and stuff. The main theme of the Misty Pond is a song called Translation, which I wrote. And I kind of wrote that song with the intention of it being a song that you would possibly hear in an establishment like the Misty Ponds. I was inspired by Falling, which is the main theme of Twin Peaks, which obviously plays non-diegetically throughout the intro. But there's also a scene in Twin Peaks where you can see, I can't remember the name of the bar the bar, that wooden one that shows up. That's like on the outskirts of Twin Peaks. A lot of the characters go there every once in a while. And
isn't it like isn't it like the Black Deck or something like that? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it's not like the casino or anything. It's like this like lumber, like this like wood bar kind of thing. But yeah, there's a scene where the band is playing, the band that actually made the song, the theme song, is playing it there. And I like to imagine Translation being a kind of a similar thing, where like, you walk in to the, this very depressing bar, and like you have this like very moody post-rock grungy kind of band playing in the corner, and like you can kind of hear it as like, Damien's doing his thing. That was kind of the image I had as I was making it. So I guess if you wanted to, you can imagine the music in that instance being diegetic, which I suppose gives insight to like the local scene, the music scene of Kingscreek, which is very, very sad and slow and grim and depressing, which, I mean, it works, it works.
Yeah. I think it's really funny, the image of because like I agree with you. I don't think that the music is diegetic. But I do think it's the idea of like Damien like listening through the episode and being like, this part where I talked about like my uncle seeing something horrific and seeing a deer getting torn up in the woods.
It's not quite hitting.
I just need to add like the right atmospheric moment for it, or him scoring the part where he like gets into an argument with Sarah. He's just like, I need to up the tension in this scene.
Scoring his own argument. Yeah. That is funny. Yeah.
I mean, because he did get a degree in audio engineering. I think he could make. It's not that he can't make music. I think he absolutely could. He just doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. No. He does. He does, like, especially in the earlier episodes in the first half of the show, he does like play a little bit of like a character a little bit. He is like putting on a degree of theatrics and stuff to kind of make it a little bit more interesting, and like kind of playing into the, this is kind of spooky, guys. I don't know, but he's not going to put in that kind of effort.
No. Oh, is this another long one? Yep. Loving the show so far. Slow burn weird fiction is just what I needed when I found the podcast, even if Damien is a bit of a myopic ass, lol, sometimes. Yeah.
That's what makes him fun.
Damien's not an amazing character, but like he's a great character. He's not a great guy.
He's not a people person. Not
a really fun person to talk to. But that makes him really fun to write. Which I guess is kind of related to your question, because my question is which character is the easiest / most enjoyable to write, and which one is the hardest / least enjoyable? And do you feel represented in the characters in some way? Also, did you start writing ideas and went from there, or did you outline and plan the story first and write second? Thanks. I think the characters that are easiest to write are the ones that like have a fun dynamic with each other. I think because like I said that that private investigator was the hardest one to write. My favorite episode to write was 18, was the one where where they're in the rain, partially because it's a big dramatic moment or whatever, and also has like a monster. But I just absolutely love Damien and Sarah's dynamic. I think that for me it is like the highlight of the show is just writing those two like going at it.
And
that's
that stretch from 16 to 18. It's the two of them bouncing off of each other is really fun.
Yeah, it's why I'm kind of sad that she's not like right back immediately. Like she's still kind of missing in the beginning of season 2, because I want to write more of her and Damien interacting. And those, don't worry though, just because they're friends now doesn't mean they're not going to have like a back and forth. As for whether or not I started writing ideas and went from there, the outline, this is very different questions depending on whether or not you're talking about the short stories or whether you're talking about the overall arching plot. Because the short stories, I usually just have like a single I'll have a bullet point or something that I have like a specific idea or image that I want to write around, and then I just like kind of just write it, just like to kind of get it out of my head and play around with it for a little bit. But for the main big story, like we've talked about how we like talk about it a lot, we plan it out a lot, we put a lot of thought into the overarching story and everything.
I think we at the very beginning we definitely started off very much as in an episode by episode kind of way. I want to say it was, when was it? It was probably I'm trying to think of it in terms of episode. I would say it was maybe around episode around the time episode 5 was maybe locked in, that we had properly not even properly, but like had like a general vague idea of how the rest of the season was going to go. But yeah, going forward, just I guess to give a little bit of a glimpse into the production of season 2 a little bit, we have the plan for that done. We have the plan for that, we know how that's going to end. We know how that stuff's in the middle. We have that. We have also that for season 3 as well. But for season 2, we specifically have like an episode by episode plan of knowing, these are the major things that are happening in the overarching plot line. But we have left ourselves spaces in between to still keep those one-off episodes, because that is part of that's a big part of the fun of the series, is Damien at the end of the day just going through his uncle's old stuff and seeing what weird stories he can pull out of. And even as the show does gradually become more serialized and that overarching plot becomes more important, that's an aspect that we don't really want to lose. And so those random one-off episodes, we're still I imagine there'll still be plenty of those that will come up with even month from now that we'll be able to just slot right into the main plan.
I think that season 2 we've got mostly planned out. We've got a slightly less in-depth plan for season 3, but we still generally know the idea. I think that season 3 is going to end up being the most serialized season, just because of what we have planned. But I want to try and have at least half of the episodes of season 3 still be those one-off short stories. We'll see if we can manage that, and probably how we'll manage doing that is just by connecting all the short stories to the larger overarching plot. But I just like the idea that Kingscreek is a place where a bunch of different things can happen, and there's not one big answer for why
there are
is.
At any given point there are countless different narratives that are going on throughout Kingscreek, and we just happen to be following one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you go about plotting a story like this with lots of short stories and one bigger overarching story?
We kind of talked about this, but
I guess we kind of just did talk about that a little bit.
But I guess I would say specifically just we just leave the spaces for the short stories in the larger overarching story, and we don't there are a lot of specific things that get planned out, and there are a lot of specific scenes that get planned out, but overall, the plan for this series is very malleable, and I think that by allowing for it to be malleable, we allow ourselves to we have a plan, we have a goal that we're going towards, but we allow it to kind of grow and it become its own thing in a way, just with guidelines to kind of push it. If it starts going in one direction away from where we're intending for it, we can course correct. But
there have been moments even very recently where we've had something a part of that big overarching narrative on lock, but then we've gone back to it and we've thought about it more, and we've looked at where the story is at the moment, and we thought, well, actually can't we maybe not 100% get rid of this idea of this plot point, but maybe change it so it better fits so it better fits where the story and where the characters are at right now.
We have a plan for Sarah specifically, and that plan was locked in for a little while. We had a specific thing where we want to take this, and we a couple weeks ago we were Well, I don't know about this actually. Let's try and like rework it a little bit. And I think what we came up with was we still kept a lot of the bones of what we originally had, but we just allowed ourselves to kind of change it up a little bit to be like, this feels a bit better. Like this, like we don't want to marry too much to a big thing, which I guess this isn't really answering the specific question, but it's just like, just I think that though having all those short stories gives you time to like be more like fast and loose a little bit with what's happening in the main plot.
They're kind of like buffers that allow you to be kind of flexible and stuff with those more concrete moments.
Yeah. But, to be clear, every single short story does take place in the world that we have. So like it's not like there's no scenario where like a short story happens and like it's like and this is from another world or whatever. Like these all stories take place in the same small area, so they all have like ripples in each other that like maybe you don't notice right away. But
we do like even for like stories that like though the main focus of it might not ever come back at all. We do talk about like what place it has in the whole world, and what relation it has to potentially other aspects that might show up later, even if those aren't explicitly drawn attention to or made obvious by the characters. There is a place for everything in this story.
Yeah, 100%. We know, like, we talk about a lot with each episode. Every episode that's come out, every episode that we've written, we've talked about like, okay, well, why is this happening? And like, we're probably not gonna go into in the actual show 90% of those stories. Just having like that idea for like what, like that we have a general idea of where things are coming from and what's going on really helps us, keep things consistent while also being more flexible.
Yeah.
All right. These questions are pretty fun, but we're going to take a short little break and hear a word from another show we think you'll really enjoy.
Under my bed, I keep a box. Inside the box are hidden things. Only I can ever know about my box of shame.
Ready or not, Ram?
My knot snaps.
Wrestling Ram. Do you think we are what we've done?
So you tried. Now you're done, right?
Are we our actions, or are we something else?
It doesn't matter. Nothing does.
Though I believe there are injustices,
I just wanted to help you.
You didn't.
we can resolve them through civic action.
The good Singapore, the clean Singapore, the garden city. I am something they will remember.
So, you ready to go or not?
Andos Productions presents Cat Skull, an audio dramatization of the Singaporean neo-noir thriller by Mile Yan Tay. New episodes every Friday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Right. We're down to the last 5 questions.
Just 5.
Is Sal just a fan of mythology, or is it something else?
I mean, I like to imagine that it's just him being pretentious.
Yeah.
Just a pretentious white supremacist.
Yeah. I think Sal is someone who like has a very high opinion of his own work. And he just like, he's like, I'm doing these incredible mythical things. I'm working like the gods are working through me almost. Like he's that kind of like, he's kind of like Victor Frankenstein in the original novel. Just like, like this idea where he's like, I'm doing something divine, creating something, he
views himself as like, on the frontier of science, the bleeding edge of medical advancements, and like in his mind's eye, that like puts him, comparable to that of like, the gods and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He view by associating his work with these kinds of stuff, it's like he's basically giving his own work that same kind of worth. It's not 100%, I guess, kind of similar, but it's kind of like, there's like car brands giving themselves names, stuff like Vita or stuff like that, or like Persephone or whatever, those like kind of like very like fancy ancient words of basically just to make them sound smarter and more arts than they actually are.
Yeah, like
that's basically what Sal is.
I think that with it started when I wrote Echo's when I first wrote Echo's Blessing storyline. I didn't have a specific idea for who Sal was, but when I wrote the name as Echo's Blessing, I was like, man, the guy who like named this was probably like a huge asshole, and that was like the whole kernel for where his entire character
guy
like,
was
came
definitely up himself.
Like this guy, like he gave this girl this stuff that made her like starve to death, and he was like, yeah, I'll call it Echo, because Echo wasted away in the original Greek myth. Aren't I clever? It's just just like
I can still remember the way that I guess we kind of solidify this, because before we kind of went in this direction, we did have a few different ideas as to the direction that we could possibly take Sal's character. And I remember specifically going out. I was out at like a coffee shop. I was having a coffee and something, and I'm just on my phone. And I check my phone, and I see my messages, and at the top of it, I see, "Hey yo, what if we made Sal racist?" And I was like, interesting. Yeah. Interesting. Tell me more.
You were like, I remember your reaction. You were like, you're going to have to sell me on this.
And hey, you did.
I think I did.
Fair enough. You sold me on it.
Yeah. I was like, I remember sending that message as like, what if we made Sal racist? And then I read what I had wrote right as I said it. I was like, just to be clear, I have a point for this. This is.
Hey, it all worked out in the end.
I think we successfully made Sal racist and made it good.
Mm-hmm. Thomas, what's your process for coming up with individual episode stories? What standards do you set for yourself for what ideas become full episodes?
Standards? We don't do that around here.
Nah, we just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks.
But when I come up with episode ideas, I think that when you're first starting out writing like horror, it's a reasonable like instinct to like just think of like, well, what's a horror thing that I like? What's like a scary story that I heard that like creeped me out? And you start to write something on that. And I think that that's not a bad like way for writing something, but I think that the best horror always has like a sliver of like reality to it. So when I'm trying to come up with ideas, what I do is I come up with like, I try to think about like experiences or images that I've seen that have like provoked a certain emotion in me. Like, for example, the idea of the rain, like the whole like drenched monster, like the rain story, that specifically just comes from just like, I live in Washington and I like the rain, but I also don't like being out in the rain for too long. I don't like that feeling that like where like you've been out for too long and the water is soaking through your sweater, and like you're like you start to feel like you lose the feeling in the fingertips of your fingers, and like I just don't like that feeling. And so I thought like, okay, well, what if I take that to like its logical extreme of like someone who literally can only experience that, like they can't like go under trees, they can't see anything else, all they have is the rain. And then what if someone else was out there with them and that person wasn't experiencing that, or like got something out of it? And so like it's that kind of like chain reaction like thought in your brain, is you just take an initial thought, initial experience, and then you build outward from that. Something that's interesting is that sometimes I kind of even go in the opposite direction. Is like the story Little Monster is a bit of an odd one. You might have noticed it's Demon Baby, the Demon Baby story. The reason that it's so odd is partially because, first of all, the narrator character I wrote was like probably the worst character I've ever written. Like, he's such an asshole. He's really fun, but he's a huge asshole. But the other thing was that because initially I based that storyline off the fact that like I get like really freaked out by babies, not because like they scare me, but because like they're so fragile. Like they're so like I work in a trampoline park, and so I see a lot of like parents with with like their little infant kids, and sometimes they like have them on the trampolines, and I'm like, there's like, these alarm bells going off in my head. I'm like, what are you doing? I've seen like 13-year-olds who are like 6 feet tall get injured on these. Please don't put your kids on them. And I just like, and so like the idea of like taking care of a baby sometimes like freaks me out, and like I thought that was an interesting experience, an interesting idea, and so I wanted to try and write a story about that horror. But then I realized very, very quickly is that you can't write a story about the fear of like how fragile children are without getting very, very dark very quickly. So I instead decided like, well, what if I go in the opposite direction? What if the baby is the danger, and like and then like what the person, I could still incorporate that thing of like babies being like so fragile almost, and have it be like karmic justice for a guy who's like treating a baby really badly. And so that's kind of where that idea came from. So that's not my typical process for things, but it's just, that's kind of the stuff that goes on in my head, is like I start off with a simple thought or simple thing about reality, and then I build off of that rather than just like being like, oh, I like this, I like werewolves. What if I do something with a werewolf? Werewolves are scary. So, no shade to those who do, but
I think my favorite moment in episode 15, the Demon Baby episode, is when Bill Collins wakes up in the middle of the night to like a loud noise, and he thinks that like a burglar or like some kind of like animal's broken into his house, and his immediate first instinct is to check his laptop to make sure it hasn't been stolen.
Yeah,
completely forgetting about his infant nephew.
Like he completely forgets that it's a possibility. So like he doesn't, like his mind literally just doesn't go there.
No, I love that. But yeah, no, it's cool to hear the process, especially since I'm kind of, I guess, developing my own as well, since I've started directly writing episodes now, kind of going through the process of like, because there have been episode ideas that have come from me that I have suggested, but this is my first time like, not just like throwing them out there and seeing, oh, maybe you'll like that, but like actually trying to make them work and like putting them into action and stuff. So yeah, I guess it'll be interesting to kind of check back in afterwards and see, where my principal inspirations come from when it comes to developing episode ideas.
Yeah, I think that like this is just like my general writing advice, is that like writing becomes so much easier when you base it off of your own experiences rather than like solely off of what you've seen other people do and trying to recreate that.
Yeah.
Obviously you don't like that's kind of, that's the saying, write what you know, right? It's not, but that like what that doesn't mean is just like if you're writing about a radar technician, you can't do that until you learn about what radar technicians do for real, or like you've been a radar technician for the rest of your whole life. But it's just like the best writing is a way to like connect with your audience, right? So if you write about something that you genuinely feel, or if you've genuinely experienced, or you like have like some kind of connection to, and you write about that, then you're more likely to connect with your audience. And so that's why having something that's based in a real sense of discomfort, even if in a horror setting it's something very small that's dialed up to 11, even that very small kernel will be enough for your audience to like go on the journey with you.
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
All right, we're down to our last three. James, what was the process of creating the reoccurring motif for Sal and all the tracks that include it?
So Sal's theme was, let me think, I believe episode 2 was in fact the first episode that we had fully scored. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think it was 3 actually.
Was it? Yeah, it was either 3 or 2. That those were the first.
They were composed around the same time though. Yeah.
Yeah, fair. Because I remember episode 1 was going through a couple of rewrites.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I was doing the score for episode 2, even though like I think looking back at it now, I really wish I had been more conscious and made more of an effort to make stronger motifs. Even back then though, I think I recognized that like Crimson Apothecaries was going to need a strong recognizable like motif. So I created that for episode 2, which I think it shows up towards the in the second half of that episode. I created that, and I always think of myself, it's really a stroke of luck that it came out as good as it does, and like as recognizable and as malleable as well. That it became this thing that like I could just insert into like different tracks and stuff. It's really fun to like weave it into different moments and stuff, but I think the key way to do it is to make sure that how do I say this? It's like it's one thing to, I guess, just play, you know, the full raw song. I think like the score for episode 6 that has the official Sal's theme track in it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like weaving that leitmotif in and into different other moments and episodes, often I find it's most fun where it's not even where the character is being like directly referenced. It's more so their influence and their vibe, and that's been the case for a few of the other reoccurring motifs that show up in the show. But yeah, I've mentioned 19 as a very fun one to do, as like, you know, different ways to like show the motif through different instrumentation, having it show up in different moments that affects how the motif is ultimately seen. Because if it's shown as a reflection of, like, if we take the presence of the motif to be a reflection of Sal's presence or Sal's influence, then having it show up surrounded by different instrumentation, being played in different instrumentation, being played in different contexts, then that changes your impression ultimately of Sal in that moment. I think, for example, I think a strong usage of it is the song Black Bile, which is in episode 10, and I think in that instance the motif surrounded by, again, all that kind of instrumentation, I kind of lean very much into my Akira Yamaoka survival horror Silent Hill bag when making that one. I feel like in that sense the motif has this very kind of gross, corrupting kind of influence to it, where you kind of feel like the presence of Sal basically driving Steven to this like unhinged place.
Yeah.
But in something like, yeah, again, going back to 19, where Sal is telling the story, and as he's telling his as he got to Boston, usually the motif is played with guitar, but instead for that moment I switched it to a piano, and I think that adds this melancholy. Is melancholy the word? I think it's more introspective.
Yeah.
Because Sal's ultimately, because, you know, Sal loves to hear himself talk. And he very much relishes the chance, because I don't think he gets the chance to do it as often as he wants.
No, I feel like
so, and I think
Damien's the first person he's had like a real conversation with in like easily like 100 years.
Yeah, and I feel like he's really, in that moment, he's really savoring the process of telling his story and how it made him feel, and it was fun to, I guess, reflect that changing his emotion through how the motif is changed and how it's used. So yeah, I really went off on that one. Hopefully that answers your question, and yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to doing the same with all the other motifs that I've established so far, all the other motifs that will definitely need to be created for season 2. Mm-hmm. It will be interesting because I am changing how I am scoring the show from this point on, because season 1 was basically scored, for lack of a better term, scored to picture.
Yeah,
where I would listen to the episode, I would go out and I would mark where a track would start, where one would end, and I would score directly to that piece of media. And while that made for a very personable, very reactable score, it was also a lot of fucking work.
Yeah, I don't know how the hell you managed. You made like 5 hours of music for this show.
Yeah, the entire score all put together is about I think around 5 hours and 20 minutes.
It's fucking ridiculous, man. It's like I don't understand how you do it.
We have to split it up into just so I don't have a 5-hour soundtrack either. We have to split it into 2 different volumes. Definitely don't plan on doing that now. I think for season 2, and I haven't properly dug into season 2.
Yeah, because you're taking a break. Because holy shit, if you didn't take a break,
I'm taking a break.
That,
I'm also working on a different project as well in terms of music, but I have made a couple songs for season 2, and my process for that, and probably for season 3 as well, is I've created I believe the official term is like a music menu, which is basically like a list of different tracks that I would want to make in various situations. So, for example, if I were to make one for season 1, I would probably have stuff like, Sal's theme, opening theme, closing theme, Damien's theme, an introductory theme, a ambient theme, a tense theme, and also maybe a couple of different variations.
You're planning on recomposing the initial theme, aren't you? Like the opening theme, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's definitely something I want to do because the tone of the show will change throughout these 3 seasons that we have planned out, and I do want to we want to reflect that in a few different ways, and a few of the ways to do that would be through the OST itself changing
100%.
Because I think honestly, I do think that I've made enough music that if we wanted to be lazy about it, we could probably just reuse the season 1 soundtrack over and over again. But I really do want to reflect the evolution of the show through many ways, and the music is just one of them. So yeah, I think it will be it's a really cool way to not only reflect, but also in a sense almost foreshadow as well, the direction of that season through how both the not only the general vibe of the soundtrack changes as it goes on, but also having that direct comparison right out of the gate through the opening and the ending themes, Kingscreek and Curiosity respectively.
Kingscreek movement too. I'm so
yeah.
I'm so excited for whatever you're gonna do. This is because this is part of why I initially talked to you for this project. It's just because I have very little actual ability to compose. But I love hearing about how music is made. And I can really appreciate a good soundtrack. And you're really good at it. You're really good at making you really think about all the same things I think about whenever I listen to a soundtrack for a show or a movie or whatever. So it's very, very cool. It's like looking into a mirror, but that mirror can actually write music.
No, yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
All right, last 2. We got 2 more.
And the lucky bastard is kind of vanilla question, but what was the most fun you had writing an episode?
I already think I answered this one, which is it's just that I really like writing any episode where there's a back and forth. Any of the Sarah and Damien episodes. 19 is really fun. I really love Sal as a character, even though he is not. I would not invite him to Thanksgiving. I would not invite him to Thanksgiving dinner. Although I guess he wouldn't be much worse than some of my actual family members. Yeah, Sal's behavior is based off of some real people in real life that I know.
Oh.
But
it's like you said, the best horror is one with a bit of truth to it.
But I think for a specific of the short stories, I think probably that's actually a tough one. There are a lot of I really liked writing 14, the one with Sydney.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Just because I 14 and 8 are both kind of in a category of where I didn't just try to do horror. I tried to also have a little bit of personal drama for the narrator character. I had in 14, I have this whole bit with the narrator's sister, and in episode 8, I have Claire's kind of on again, off again relationship with
They
with-
feel a little bit more intimate
Yeah.
than the other ones do.
And that's part of me being like, I love writing this show, but I also like writing in other genres that aren't horror as well. So sometimes I just like, always like take an episode and be like, well, what if I also injected a little bit of like a tragic romance in this one, or a little bit of like a, you know, like a sad family drama kind of about grief. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's fun to like inject those kind of things. Which is why in season 2 we're running a whole arc about Damien romancing all the characters in all the monsters in Kingscreek. We're gonna do like a whole dating sim part for it. So
the best way to deal with a monster is to make sure it doesn't want to kill you anymore. So
yeah, I mean, you got to neutralize them somehow.
yeah.
But I mean, and I know that you've written a couple of episodes already. Of the 2 you've written, do you have like a preference for which one was more fun?
Fun. Well, they've both been fun in different ways. The first one, I guess, partially was because again, without going into one, it was the first episode of season 2 that was written.
Yeah.
I think we actually wrote it before season 1 had even finished airing.
It's true.
To give you a hint of how excited we were to get right into it, I guess. So I guess there was that excitement of like, you know, kicking off the season, I guess, and also kind of like properly dipping my toes into it as well. Obviously, the other one that I have as well is a bit. There's a personal fondness there for it as well because, again, without giving too much away from it, it's basically like my tribute to the genre of J-horror and how much horror from Japan has influenced me. You know, like I think I would be a very different person if I hadn't experienced media like Corpse Party or Pulse or Ringu or those kinds of films. So that's my way of paying tribute to that. So that was very fun.
Very good episode. I'm looking forward to people being able to hear it.
Yeah, definitely, it'll be fun. But yeah, I mean, you know, we've got a whole season ahead of me, so we'll see how things are next time we do this.
Yeah. All right, last question.
I wonder what it'll be.
Yeah. Is the ant a brother-in-law type, or is there something else going on? Also, do you have a BTS way to refer to brother-in-law type monsters because it's a kind of long name? I'll answer the second part of that question first. Yes, we do. We do have an internal, you know, referencing for what kind of creature that is.
The name actually kind of is already public, actually.
I guess that's true. But I mean, we just call it, was kind of what we call it. Like, there's no there's no Yautja name or anything. There's no like canon name for what this thing is, but like, we just call it like a Simirman. Like a Simirman's monster.
Yeah, Simirman's monster. Yeah, it's the name Simerman comes from a Czech polymath who doesn't exist. It isn't real. That's part of his lore. Is that he is a fake guy who everyone kind of just pretends exists.
Yeah. You came up with that name.
That's where I got the name. Yeah, Simerman's monster is the name that I came up with because I was drawing the connection between the concept of Simerman and the aunt and the kind of brother-in-law kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is why I named their theme song, the motif of the brother-in-law, Simerman's monster. You can find it on the Select Sounds.
We might introduce the term into the show. I haven't decided if we will yet. But I think
I feel like there's a very specific character it will come from because I don't believe Simerman is the kind of term that Damien would absolutely come up with on his own. Yeah. So it's not, I think it would have to be come from
a different character,
the other character that we're writing. Yeah, as in like, oh, I've heard of this. They call it the Simerman's monster. Yeah. Yes.
Also, and like as for the first part of the question, like normally I would be like kind of cagey about it a little bit, but like yeah. That is what it was going for. The ant is one of those like monster things. That was what the ending of 20 is supposed to imply, is that that's what's going on. I actually came up with the idea of the ant being this creature first before I wrote 9. 9 was supposed to be like an idea of like just like introducing the idea of this creature existing, so that's in the back of the listeners like head while they're listening to the rest of it.
Yeah. We just before that, we just kind of had the idea of, you know, the aunt being something suspicious, and there's something being more to them.
Yeah.
It wasn't until again later when I think we actually wrote down the idea for episode 9 that it became to tie them together in that way.
And you know, I also realized like halfway through, which I guess so. There's already been like a spoiler warning for all of season 1 of Kingscreek here, but there's this kind of a spoiler for the earlier seasons of the Magnus Archives. There's a kind of similar monster I realized in the show, which I realized until way too late, is that there's a monster that's called the Not Them, which is basically like it's because it's like a whatever character it is, it's the not person, and like there's like if it was like if there was a character called Jerry, then the Not Them would have gotten Jerry, and then there would have been a not Jerry in his place. And it was like a memory monster that replaced people. And it also replaced a main character in the show. I think that this, I did not...
I think we've differentiated ourselves enough to the point. Yeah, it's not that like, you know, that Zimmerman's monster.
I didn't intentionally draw that. I didn't intentionally do that on purpose. I realized later, it's like,
it's
this is really similar.
Draws like it doesn't like replace a person that like pre-existed. It kind of just like forces its way into your memory and just kind of like paints itself into it.
The inspiration for the Zimmerman's monster was actually was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which in turn, there's a character in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I think I might have told you this already. I don't remember if I did, but there's a character in Buffy the Vampire Slayer who like in the beginning of one of the seasons just shows up and everyone acts like she's been there the whole time, and like she's in the opening intro credits and everything, and like basically the whole show is pretending like this is a character who's been here for the entire runtime, and like and like you're not sure like what's going on, and the actual
I think you mentioned it.
The actual reveal of what's going on is really interesting, so I won't spoil it if you guys are watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is a good show. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, that's a good show if you can tolerate Xander.
I remember you. I think I remember you saying that because I also remember how it also kind of reminded me of something else as well. In Dandadan, the manga, there is a character that is almost basically similar to what you described in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where this is like much later on beyond what the anime has adapted so far. But there's a character who just kind of shows up, and everyone's like, "Oh, yeah, no, you, yeah, no, yeah,
yeah, no, I totally
you've always been here." And the audience go like, "Wait, what the? Who is this guy? Who? What do you mean he's just been here? No, he hasn't. What is he? But yeah, it's that kind of like similar thing."
And someone actually pointed out, like, also that that apparently the character from Buffy the Vampire Slayer that I'm talking about is the inspiration for the Memory Parasites episode of Rick and Morty, which I didn't know, but I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah,
so the whole interesting web of inspiration that we're.
It all gets back. Here. It all comes back and forth. It all comes back and forth. Everything's connected. Every anime you've watched in the last 20 years, they've all been inspired by Neon Genesis Evangelion. All right.
It all comes back to Ava.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, I've actually just recorded an episode, of a YouTube video comparing Plurbius to Evangelion.
Two things.
I guess it all does come back to Ava.
That's incredible. I love that. Everything really is connected. Pluribus is like Evangelion. Evangelion is like Kingscreek. Literally. All right. This was really fun. I loved all these questions that we got.
Yeah, very fun. Thank you, everyone.
So what's coming up next for us is, I think the next thing that'll happen for Kingscreek specifically is you're going to release those albums of the soundtrack, I believe.
Yeah, the soundtrack. Yeah. the hope is to get them out in December. As I mentioned, there'll be 2 different volumes. No concrete details as of now, but hopefully coming out. I want to say like mid-December. Definitely want to get them out before the end of the year.
Yeah, like hopefully before the 1-year anniversary of dropping the first teaser.
Yeah. That would be cool. Yeah.
But other than that, we've got season 2 is in the works. It's happening. It'll probably we'll update you more about it. But I would say probably like a solid date to shoot for is like it might start airing in like the summer, or like late spring, early summer of like 2026, maybe.
Yeah. That is, I think, slightly later than when season 1 started airing, but I think as a consolation, we should know we aren't planning to have any mid-season gaps. Since we have the whole thing basically planned out, at least in terms of the overarching plot, we have all that planned out right now. There are 2 of us who are writing the episodes. And also, we aren't planning. The plan is not to like start recording until most of them have been written.
Yeah,
so
that's part of it. Also, just because it is going to be, we've got better workflow now, but it also is a more complex season to work on since it'll be like bigger in scale. There will be more characters, a lot more moving parts. So, we're gonna try and work as fast as we can, but also not in a way that we like rush ourselves or like overwork ourselves. Yeah. So,
you can't rush art.
You can't rush art. But other than that, in the meantime, there's going to be that album. But also, James makes a bunch of YouTube videos on their channel, Kai After Kai, and also releases music on that aren't Kingscreek related. So I do that. Yeah, I'm mostly going to be working on like this, and I'll also work on my friend Pillar of Garbage's podcast as well that we do together, but most of my effort is going to be going right back into this. So, I'll keep you guys posted about it. We'll keep the channel open, and like post in the subreddit and stuff and the Discord. Like if you want to talk to us more, if you want to like share your ideas, I think that just like if you guys like start talking to each other, talking to us, help kind of keep the ball rolling. It'll really like help the show out, and I think it'd be really cool to start more of a community around the whole thing. I don't know, I just think that would be fun, and it'd be a good way to keep the time in between seasons 1 and 2 occupied.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you guys all so much for listening. We're so happy that you enjoyed season 1 of Kingscreek. More is coming in the future. But I think this is probably going to be the last like time we like really talk in this thing for the rest of the year. So thank you all for such like a great first year of Kingscreek. This has been fucking awesome.
Yeah, incredible. Genuinely been a really, really cool experience, and thank you all for supporting us on the journey, and we can't wait for you to see what we have planned next.
Yeah, we can't wait to see what we have planned next. We know what we have planned next. We can't wait to see it. All right. Have a nice day, everyone, guys. Like have a good year.
Fare thee well.